welcome to Masters of Real Estate. Today I have somebody that has a unique skill set associated with property management and has done a lot of the same things I've done, having flipped over 1,000 houses now. Engelo Rumora, thank you so much for joining, man. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to dive into this because so many people don't understand the importance of property management and investment systems. And when you start flipping 1,000 houses and you start dealing with the property management aspect of this, you really start to be able to dive deep into the efficiencies of your process, right? Having to flip a house and do construction and go through step by step to be successful at that business. And then on the other side, on the property management, being able to dive deep into the true skill sets that make a management company a really quality management company that you can count on as an investor. And really, as you and I both know, a rental is only as good as the property manager is going to be in the first place, unless you're dealing with properties in the hood or other problems that you got to deal with sometimes that come up. So thanks so much for joining us. Can you give us a little bit of background on how you got started in real estate, what your story was and your backstory here, man?
Yeah, Matt. Hey, thanks for having me. And you forgot to tell your listeners I'm the best guest you've ever had. And this is
nice.
this is by far the only one that they should listen to. Nah, mate, jokes. No, thanks for having me. I know I rescheduled with you guys a few times. I got a little bub that's 26 days old, so it's been absolutely hectic. No sleep. I've got 4 coffees in me, so I apologize if I start shaking. But yeah, mate. Look, background. Wow. Let me try and do this short. Quit school at the age of 14. Why? Don't ask. It's a long story. That's for another podcast. I played professional soccer at the age of 18, which was, I would say, my biggest achievement to date. Out of everything that I've accomplished, being a professional soccer player was my biggest achievement. Reluctantly, mate, decided to hang up the boots. I just didn't feel that I was going to be good enough to achieve financial freedom by the time I retire. So what do you do, mate? Where do you go? You got no formal education. You can hardly write, can't read. I've got ADHD or whatever it's bloody called. The only job that I could get at the time was working in construction as a labourer in Sydney, Australia. If you haven't heard by my accent, I'm not from America, even though I tell people I'm from North Carolina just to avoid conversations about snakes and crocodiles and koalas and kangaroos,
I could see the gap. I could see the gap. North Carolina, Australia.
Yeah, similar, right? So yeah, mate, look, I worked in construction for 4 years. I was laboring, but I always believed that there was something bigger and better out there for me. And I pretty much, just started immersing myself in everything and anything business and finance related. I wanted to figure out a way how I can make my money work for me instead of me working for it. So imagine this, mate, you got a 14-year-old high school dropout that's passionate about football or soccer for his whole life, and he replaces that passion now with business, stocks, royalties, real estate, you name it. I've done it all, and I love it. It really is a passion of mine. And of course, one thing leads to another. You're in construction. I'm sweeping floors, but I'm looking at plumbers do their job. I'm looking at electricians do their job. Sheetrockers do their job. So I was like, fuck it. I might as well get into real estate. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I've heard a lot of people making a lot of money in it. Long story short, mate, look, bought a property in Australia, renovated it, refinanced out of it, bought another one, and I scaled my portfolio very quickly to around 8 or 9 properties. The problem there was, mate, is I was losing more on my monthly mortgage repayments than I was actually collecting in rent. So that was a recipe for disaster, right? Because I was bleeding money every month. Now, granted, I looked good on paper and I picked up a lot of chicks because I told them, hey, I'm this real estate entrepreneur, you know what I mean? But it just wasn't a sustainable way moving forward. Mate, this was 2012, Matt. The US real estate market comes across my desk, okay? As you know, and as everyone knows, once in a lifetime opportunity, as corny as that sounds, right? And I was like, shit, this is better than sliced bread. I got to do this. Packed my bags, mate, moved to Kansas City. That's where I initially got off the boat, as I like to joke around. Mate, bought my first property somewhere in the ghetto, can't even remember. 28 Brooklyn Avenue, can't remember, mate. I think I paid like 17 grand for it, put 10 grand into it, sold it for 45, something like that. And I was like, dude, what the hell is going on? This is bloody awesome.
They call that real estate crack right there. That first deal.
That
you get, I gotta go back and get more deals.
That's what I always tell my plumbers on site. When the crack's hanging out, I'm like, dude, with that much crack showing, the cops are gonna catch you. You know what I mean? They'll take you to jail. No, and mate, look, fast forward to today. Like you, I stopped counting at 1,000 flips. Got a turnkey company called A Higher Cash Flow. Got a property management company called Oz Realty. Heavily building my personal portfolio right now because I'm a little bit burnt out on the whole investor factor. They piss me off a lot. So I'm like, screw you guys. I'm going to build my portfolio now, which I intended to do when I first moved to this country. Mate, I've invested in crypto, lost my ass on it. Don't ask. That's a separate podcast in itself. Did very well in stocks. I'm currently heavily invested in the stock market too. Bought real estate all over the world, sold real estate all over the world, mate. Took a 2-year sabbatical just to kind of catch myself because I completely burnt out. And here I am talking to you right now. So that's me in a nutshell. Sorry if I took too long.
No, that was awesome, man. And it just, there's one key thing that I really wanted to point out of this story is that, you know, the traditional education piece does not define your wealth in life. It's actually probably beneficial at the end of the day, maybe, to be able to get out of that system, because you can educate yourself in so many ways on how to actually make money, and the traditional education system does not teach you how to make money. And so, you know, I actually went to school, got a degree in economics with an emphasis in accounting, and I knew nothing about economics or accounting going into the CPA world until I actually started working at a CPA firm to do the actual work. And then that was the most boring thing in the world, and you realize that sucks. Like, let's go do something else. I can't do this for the rest of my life. And I had to jump into real estate because it was so interesting to me, and I had that itch. Same thing, bought a house, negative cash flow every month, didn't realize it, you know, just trying to figure it out, right? Buy something. And at the end of the day, you know, you go through a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of stresses and things like that throughout that process. And you got to stick and move, right? As things change in the economy, things move around. You know, my biggest mistake was probably flipping and selling 1,000 houses, because if I would have held those things, I would have made a hell of a lot more money long term. But I didn't realize that they're just focus on different resources, focus on raising the capital for those deals and holding them instead of reselling for that profit that I thought I needed to live, you know? And so, and all that was just a different, you know, mindset of thinking to be able to say, no, there's an easier way. It's just structuring and, you know, focusing on a different path to be able to develop resources, whether that's acquisitions and selling like this, or that's acquisitions and holding through bringing capital investors or different people to the table to partner with you in the resources you need to make this successful. And so, you know, what are some of the things after flipping 1,000 houses? You know, you and I both know there was a lot of headaches that went along with that. What are some of the trials and tribulations you see that you had to go through on the flipping side? Because there's a lot of people out there that think that they should be active flippers instead of just buy and hold investors. And what are your thoughts as far as what are the problems that go into that business and the issues with it?
Well, mate, just to summarize what you said, I think school is the biggest bunch of bullshit there is. Like, it's an absolute bloody joke. Absolute bloody joke. I love Jim Rohn's saying where he says formal education will earn you a living while personal development will give you a lifestyle. You know what I mean? Look, awesome. I can just because I've been a business owner and ran numerous companies, I can read balance sheets. I can look at profit and loss statements. I can look at a company's book value. I can understand. I stalk CNBC all day and every day. You want me to quote what Jerome Powell says word by fucking word? I can quote that. School doesn't give you that. There's a different instinct. There's a different mojo when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Warren Buffett says you'll know value when you see it. I made an absolute fortune when oil went negative, $37 a barrel. My Wall Street guys were telling me, oh, green energy's taken over. And I'm like, bullshit, green energy's taken over. That shampoo that you wash your balls with, you got oil in that. What are you talking about, mate? We're hundreds and hundreds of years away before a green energy takes over, you know? So a lot of smart people, mate, again, that have finished much higher degrees than me, guess what, Matt? They all fucking work for me. I don't work for them. So again, you know, time and time again, school has proven to be nothing, in my opinion. It's such a shame that people are forcing education down their children's throats. I can't stand to look at it. You need basic knowledge, write, read, bloody type. Look, when I type, it looks like a Chinese chef bloody doing chop suey, you know what I mean? So my staff laughs at me. So basics, but you know, all of this other nonsense, it doesn't matter. Life will teach you what school will never teach you. Anyway, flipping, mate, where do I start? Look, I think I figured out everything in this game. Honestly, I really do. One thing I've never figured out, and I don't think I ever will figure out, is contractors. I mean, I've lost millions and millions of dollars to contractors, and I'll give you a few examples. Take a draw, use it on another job. Take a draw, buy a boat. Take a draw, buy a car. Take a draw, buy drugs. Take a draw, take the wife on a holiday. You know, they might start off good. They'll do good for a year or two. You start trusting them, and you're not verifying. You just cut the check. They're good. I mean, right? They've been good for 2 years. Bullshit. They're
Yeah.
not. They disappear.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I just consider the cost of doing business. Yes, you've got a lot of tech out there like Inspectify, where you can schedule it online and get them to go walk the property and send you an update to see before you cut the draw. But still, mate, you know, what they do behind the wall, sometimes you don't see. They cheat, they cut corners. And it is what it is. It's just the nature of the beast. And I think that folks out there will, you know, I've always loved the saying, underestimate your income and overestimate your expenses. You're never going to go on budget, mate. You're always going to go over budget. So give yourself a margin of safety, meaning if you're buying cheap enough, and you need to buy dirt cheap, and I'm talking 30 cents on the dollar, even if you go over budget on rehab, and if your contractor screws you, you'll still make money, or at least worst case scenario, break even. So contractors are the big key there. And again, I'm not sophisticated enough to tell you what to do with them, because I haven't figured it out. When you find a few good ones, you keep them, but then it depends on how much you want to scale, and then, you know, you're opening up another can of worms, trying new people and taking that risk of losing money again.
And I think that's, you know, probably the the things that cost me the most money, and after flipping this many houses and doing this much real estate business, is bad partnerships and team members, which the number one person on that team member list that cost me the most is contractors. They've cost me hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in theft and, you know, and losses and things like that at the end of the day. And you realize that, you know, we have a lending company, and then we also go through and, you know, flip and all that stuff, and we've slowed down quite a bit because I don't want to do that anymore. I got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and so I don't focus on that. I focus on other aspects of mobile home parks and other projects like that, and debt structures and things like that, because you can create the lifestyle you want, because active flipping is very much an active business. A lot of times, even if you want to step out, you got to there's a lot of problems to mitigate, right? That are going to come to you, something new, right?
Yep.
So, and the contractors in themselves, what we've found is you can't stop 100% of the problems. The only thing you can do is mitigate that risk as much as you can with proper construction draws, proper checks and balances on their workmanship, super important, and their financials. So if we had a contractor one time that we were doing a 19-unit building for, and he came in and he was asking me about trying to get a bond for a commercial deal, and I said, okay, well, they're going to require audited financials, so like you have to, where's your books now? And he said, oh, if I got money in the bank, then I'm doing okay. And I'm like, that's exactly the mentality of a contractor. If I have money in the bank, I'm doing okay, regardless of all their money is supposed to be designated for a project. You know, like that is their mentality, right? There's not a quality financial education on that side, and, you know, contractors and budgeting and bookkeeping and project management on that side when it comes to cash is not the strong suit. And so being able to go through and monitor that and say, you get a draw for this, it's going to this spot for materials, let me see the receipts, and then at the same time going through and being able to say, hey, did your sub get paid? Let me get the lien waiver from that sub if you're doing that. And in the moment I see any financial distress, we pay the subs directly instead and don't even deal with the contractor, because I'm not going to mess with that. You know, and I'll pay them their management fee separately, right? So like, these are the things, but it takes a meticulous effort to go through that process with contractors and make sure that they are not stealing, or most of the time it's not even theft. It's just a lack of education. Yeah. They might mean well, but if they get into financial trouble, then it's going to fall on you, whether they mean well or whether it's theft or not. It's still going to fall on you. You got to cover that difference, because they may not have it, you know. So that's, I think, the biggest headache with flips as well, is that piece of it. You know, the market, it depends on what market you're in, right? I like investing in cash flow markets that, you know, the downside risk on a flip is that I have to hold it, and maybe I make a 7 cap or an 8 cap or something like that, or better on my money in that kind of a scenario. And so I think that kind of leads to, you know, the cash flow piece of this, to say, hey, you know, yeah, flipping is great, but it creates some income. It's bad for taxes. It's very, very operational heavy. You got a lot of risk from contractors and things like that. And so sometimes it's better, when you're putting that much effort in, to just hold them for cash flow and develop a cash flow stream and hire a really good property manager to manage it, because you as the investor shouldn't be dealing with tenants and toilets and termites and all that kind of stuff. And so at the end of the day, it all comes down to that team member on the property management side for the performance of that asset long term. And so you run a management company, and so can you explain, what in your eyes, what makes a good or a bad property manager to investors out there that may want to be finding a good one, you know, because it's not easy to find them either.
Well, that's easy. As long as they don't steal, they're good.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Mate, look, I love what you're saying. It's music to my ears, and like you, I wish I held a lot more than what I sold.
Right.
But it's always easy to be the general after the battle. And of course, now when we've seen the market boom all over the country, which we maybe didn't think at the time would happen as much as it did now. And then again, you've got people you need to pay, you've got overhead. So by flipping, you're constantly liquid, so you can keep paying your staff, you can keep growing. But looking back now, mate, I wish I just held 10% of everything I sold. I would have been sipping pina coladas in the Bahamas right now if I did. But again, it is what it is. We move on. You live and you learn. You don't repeat the same mistakes again. Mate, look, property management. Honestly, Matt, the number one profit center for property management companies is upcharging maintenance. Okay, so property management companies are notoriously known for making up maintenance that's non-existent to charge you, and upcharging 3 times the turn. $200 an hour when they're paying their staff 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour, whatever it may be. That's probably the biggest profit center that they have, and that's where they make the most money. In my opinion, first of all, good property management companies, and I'm proud to say we've got a 4.4 star review on Google, which for property management, dude, it's like freaking Rolls Royce.
Because you're always gonna have a tenant mad at you or an investor mad at you because they'll blame you for a rent ready 100%. Or something, or the tenant will blame you, or
no matter how good you do, you never get a 5-star review. But as soon as you fuck up once, 1-star review, period. So if anyone wants to look at our reviews, they're not manipulated. It's not people from India and Pakistan giving me reviews, okay? It's legitimate. It's legitimate investors and tenants. So we're very proud of that. I think that's a big component. You need to look at the reviews, but scroll through the entire review list to see what landlords are saying, what tenants are saying, and if the property manager's replying. Transparency from a fee structure standpoint. How complex are the property management fee structures? It is bloody mind-boggling to me, mate. I don't get it. Everyone has their own fee structure. 7%, 8% if you have 2 properties, half month rent, this, blah, 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 blah. It's a bloody joke. So look, we've simplified that. We've got the traditional property management structure with the 10%. And I've got something that I absolutely love, and we like to call it. It's called the Diamond Package, which is like a property management insurance policy per se. It's a one-time monthly flat fee of $200, and there are no upcharges whatsoever for anything. If there's a maintenance repair that needs to be done, we pass on the cost to you. Keeps logistics easy for us, keeps the back end easy for us. And folks that want to know exactly what they're paying every single month, no tenant placement fee, no leasing fee, no eviction upcharge, no maintenance upcharge. There you have it. So. That's look, awesome. as we kind of chatted before we started live, mate. It took me 10 years to figure out my shit. Like it was disgusting. I hated my life, mate. I really did, because it's a very, very thankless job. It's a very tough business.
Right.
We have done a very good job in systemizing it, automating it. We've been monetizing it a lot. We're getting ready to potentially acquire another company in town. As I said, M&A. I can't believe I'm even saying it. But we got to a point where it's a very well-oiled machine and everything is just functioning. The team is good, vacancies are low, maintenance is getting done quickly enough. And again, I guess it just took us a very long time to get there. I'll throw this out there. Saving grace for us, and I think saving grace for anyone in real estate or in business, is remote workers, okay? Get yourself remote workers. Now, if you do not want to necessarily be the one hiring the remote workers, because eventually you'll probably have to let go of them too at one point in time, we work with a few intermediary companies that we spent 3 months training every little nut and bolt of our entire business operation, from the flipping aspect and the property management aspect. Nice. Video recording, itemizing line item by line item. We've got 4 people that are remote workers. They learnt these gigs. They do them very well. They speak fluent English. They're fantastic people. I lived in the Philippines for 6 months, and I love my Filipinos. I sounded like Trump there. I love my Latinos. I love my Filipinos. And look, here's the beautiful thing about it is it costs you $1,800 a month. You can probably find it cheaper. You don't have to pay payroll tax. You're not risking anyone saying that I'm trying to sexually seduce them because I say mate and darling to people. That's just my figure of speech. But we live in America. You never know what's going to happen, right? If you say black or white, now you're a racist. Anyway, that's a separate topic there too. I don't know if we should touch on that. No, we shouldn't. But even though you said I can, but anyway, I won't. Hey, so yeah, mate. Look, and if
anytime you can be anti-government or anti-government, anything right now, I'm for it. So,
and then if one individual for whatever reason leaves or they're out sick, you've got someone else that's a trained backup that fills the spot straight away. You're not skipping a beat. No employee turnover. So, folks listening, get yourself some remote workers. They're amazing people and they're very good at what they do.
And I think what you're saying, obviously is, you look at the labor difference here in the U.S. versus remotely, and the actual tasks that need to be done, are typically administrative tasks or consistent reoccurring tasks that can be taught to anybody, across the world. And so, if you have the same intelligence level in different areas, and they both speak fluent English and can communicate correctly and be there on demand for you and do what you need, then why not go with the cheaper labor? And then, of course, at some point, like you mentioned, we're going to get AI is going to replace a lot of these little minuscule tasks, right? But that's what's interesting, is because you develop the processes and the systems, which any good company would do, then you're able to now show, hey, here's a video of exactly how to do it. So anytime someone needs to be replaced, you can do that, or you can look at each piece of the system and say, okay, well, what piece can be replaced with AI right now? What little spot in here how many of these little things could I cut out now with new AI that's out there to be able to minimize costs and get more of a well-oiled machine? And I think, we go through 5 property managers in every single market, it seems like, before we find the good ones in those markets that have a lot of different inefficiencies in different ways, right? Just like any business, it's hard to get everything right on every category, right? You have accounting, you have investor communication, you have tenant communication, you have service calls, you have tenant turnover, you have collections, you have leasing, you have business management, like all of these things are things that you should be, as an investor, asking your property manager about, right? You hit on a really important one, which was the fee structure, which gives bad incentives, right? The fact that you have a flat fee structure makes the incentives align with investors. And at the end of the day, if you have $2,000 or $2,400 a year or $5,000 a year in repairs and not have that markup and not have to share late fees and leasing fees and all these other little fees that get thrown in there, there's a lot of ways that the managers make money. And we have a manager that if it's vacant, then they charge $50 a month, right? For that vacancy. And so that's a disincentive. Now they do a good job, they get it occupied really quick, so I'm not worried about that piece for them. But in a lot of ways, there's a major disincentive, right? Why they don't have, if they're still making money and covering their costs, whether they're performing for you or not. And as an investor that I invest with other people, I want to look at performance-based incentives. As a business owner working with different vendors and different people that work with me, I want to see performance-based incentives in that relationship to say, how do I know you give a crap about me, in the first place? And the fact that you set that up that way is really, really interesting, because it does align that interest. Because you're getting paid for all that extra crap that they may have to deal with. And on the manager's defense, sometimes they might get a really crappy property that has a ton of repairs and they got to go do a bunch of work to it, and a major cleanup upon a takeover of an asset or something like that to get it performing enough to be not a liability for the property manager as well. And so these are some of the things that we've ran into as far as problems on the management side and these different categories. How do you set that up? Do you use VAs in these different markets for like accounting and tenant communication and that kind of stuff, or how do you set that up?
So Matt, we've got 4 remote workers right now. We've got 4 in-house people. So I still love the mix of in-house and remote. Mate, So we have introduced so much tech that it's absolutely mind-boggling. Like absolutely mind-boggling. You were talking about AI. Let me give you an example of something that we're introducing now in September. The platform is called Colleen.ai, right? And the biggest pain point for my staff has been towards the latter part of the month and early part of the month, right? People are asking dumb questions because unfortunately that's just the way people function. They're lazy, they don't want to do the research. Why should I? I'll just ask the question, right? Can I pay the rent late? Can I pay partial rent? How do I pay the rent? Where do I pay the rent? I don't want to pay the rent. I need this repaired, blah, blah, blah. So every single inquiry we have to respond to, we have to answer, because that's what we do. We're a service-based business. Right. Colleen asks you 20 questions when you onboard Colleen. It's artificial intelligence, right? Based off of your business apparatus modus operandi. That's the one. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. I think that's the saying, whatever. Anyway, then based off of your process and operation, she learns from the 20 questions that she asks. You plug her into AppFolio, then she looks at the historical data. Who pays on time, who pays rent, what they ask, how they ask it, all of the excuses, blah, blah, blah. For the late payers, she automatically reaches out in advance to remind them when the rent needs to be paid. If they ask any questions, she automatically responds based off of what she's learned from AppFolio and based off of the 20 questions that we were asked. So that is completely hands-off, automated. Colleen is an artificial intelligence assistant that will assist with all of the rent collections and late payments. So that's just one thing that I got
down on labor on all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Dude, tenant turnout, digital lock boxes. We don't have any leasing agents, completely automated on autopilot. Property mailed completely coordinates maintenance from tenant to technician. We just sit back, relax, and watch it all happen. One thing that you mentioned, right? Look, when I started getting excited about property management, we couldn't make a profit for many, many years because, again, we didn't know what we were doing. And that's why, you can't blame them, Matt. You can't fucking blame them because they got to eat. You think they eat from the 10% that they collect going into the ghetto?
Most of the time, unless you have 300 plus units under management, you're not even break even.
You're not breaking even, right? So you can't blame them when they nickel and dime and they cheat. When I started getting excited was, when we started hitting that kind of threshold of 300 units under management, I was like, shit, man, economies of scale. If I introduce an affiliate service like RBP, which offers renters insurance, credit rewards, and I charge 30, but they charge me 25 bucks and I charge 35 bucks for a value-based benefit, all of a sudden 300 units under management plus 10 bucks is what? 36 grand a year, whatever, something like that. That's another person that I can hire. Another thing too, mate, look, I'm not a greedy guy. As the company grows, of course, maybe I can pay myself a little bit more, but I heavily reinvest back into the company. I've got some people here that have been with me for a very long time. I love them. I admire them. If I can make their job easier with tech, with automation, with remote workers, I want to do that. Have I had a lot of shit people in my life? Unfortunately, I have. You mentioned that earlier, business partners. I don't want to have any business partners anymore, mate. I want to be the alpha and omega. If someone wants to be a money partner, give me the money and stay out of my business, right? And vice versa. I'll do the same thing. You can't have two cooks in a kitchen. So, again, there are these different affiliate fees that we can generate through a value-based proposition, which doesn't affect the tenant, doesn't affect the landlord. It's good for us. We've got economies of scale, helps us grow, helps us build. But look, I need to be able to sleep in peace at night, right? And charging more than what I should be charging, which I already know the industry average because I live it and breathe it, I can't do that morally. Can I double my revenue by doing that? Probably, but it's not all about money, mate. You know what I mean? It's not all about money. It's about doing
the right thing. You got to be there long term from a sustainability standpoint, you know? So yeah, absolutely. And you're with the efficiencies that you're talking about and implementing these AIs, it enables you to be fair with the owners and be able to say, look, here's my flat structure. I don't need to charge all these extra things. I'll grow organically and get to that point because it reduces your overhead costs and your overall cost of doing business on the management side, to be able to make a lot more of a margin on the current things that you're actually charging for, because the labor is outsourced in a lot of ways and you've utilized a lot of these tech things to be able to integrate right into like the fact that you had that working with, what'd you say, was it property mail that you said?
Property meld syncs the tenant and the maintenance technician straight away. Man, are you writing this down? Yes, I'm going to charge you for consulting.
I was writing. I was like Colleen AI, property meld. You said RVP, I think, or something like that. So
tenant turnout, second nature, obligo, and there's more. But I'll need to send you an invoice for that.
Cool, man.
I'm joking, mate.
I'm writing down because you're making me money right now. So thank you. That's awesome.
I'm always, what I always say, Adam, competition is great, and not just that. If we can help each other to get better, at the end of the day, it just benefits our clients and our customers. I'm an open book. I'm literally the biggest property management company in town. I'm telling them everything we do and how we do it. I want them to get better. I don't know. I like other people doing great. There's enough fish in the sea per se, or there's enough business for everyone to go.
The plentifulness mindset is very prevalent in the real estate space in a lot of ways, where I feel like a lot of people are willing to just help other people, and because everybody makes more money when everybody is helping each other in that way. People bring resources and ways of making money that you never even thought of just by being around people, and you start to see all these other ways everybody else makes money. And if you have one resource or one tool or one strategy to help or add value in that way, you can make money with someone else in the real estate space, whether that's a real estate business on the property management side, or I could set up an affiliate management team, for example, through my marketing efforts and help you get more business, for example, or just little things like that in a ton of different ways. That is what's really cool and what draws me to real estate and what gets me excited about it. There's a lot of unscrupulous people out there and a lot of criminals that make the wrong decisions, just like any industry out there, right? And real estate is no different than any of the other ones. And obviously there's a lot more money in real estate, and so you got to be careful because there's some sharks out there. So you want to really, really do your homework on your team members. We utilize a big checklist when we deal with any new property management company, where we're going through what are your accounting procedures that you do on a monthly basis when you do a closeout, or you're doing this to close out the last month and get investors paid and make sure you're handling delinquencies. What are your processes for delinquencies? What are your processes for tenant collections, or not tenant collections, but leasing, for example, and how are you marketing for those things? It's questions like that to get insight as to how someone's system is set up, so then that way you can feel comfortable moving forward that they know what the hell they're doing, and not going to go and let your property sit vacant for 3 months while they figure it out, or piss off a tenant where they move out because a maintenance call, service call wasn't done right away, that costs you way more money or gets you sued, in a different ways, because they're agents on your behalf. And so that side of things, I think, is one of the most important things to focus on, is the management, is the processes and systems inside this, because you want to know that, hey, your property on an annual basis, you're analyzing rents to look at the efficiency of that asset. Should it go up? Should it stay the same? Should you be just under market rents, so that if rents do decline, then you're not going to have somebody move out, because tenant turnover is the most expensive piece of owning asset.
Correct.
So,
yeah, mate. No, I love it. We like to keep our rents at market or slightly below, because what's an extra 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks worth if it takes us 2 extra months to get the property tenanted? You've lost that over the next 2 years, right? So if we can make it attractive enough, get a tenant in there, it makes them be able to afford the rent, and they stay and pay for the long haul. The extra 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks, in my opinion, is not worth losing a good tenant that maybe doesn't want a lease increase or a rent increase, or letting the property sit on the market for longer for that extra 50 bucks a month.
Right, and a lot of people, a little bit of a tangent, but a lot of people rely on Section 8 because they think it's guaranteed rents and things like that. It's far from guaranteed. You basically have to go through inspections every year, and if the tenant messes it up, you got to fix it or you don't get paid. Also, a lot of those tenants, depending on who they are, of course, they can mess up your unit, and they're judgment proof, so you have no recourse to go after them at all if they do something.
Not just that, Matt, Section 8 might approve them for 800 bucks, the rent is 1,000, and they can't come up with the extra 200, and you can't evict them because they always pay partial rent. So then you're short every month 200 bucks. I mean, dude, we don't have too many Section 8. We're not a fan of Section 8. We have to accept Section 8, but we're not a fan of it, mate. Here in Toledo, it's a bloody joke. And
yeah, I try to avoid it if I can as well, just because of those types of issues that you have to deal with. Some people are great at it, and maybe on a lower end asset because the risk is too high of tenant collection that you want to do that. I know one person specifically that went and implemented a program where every Section 8 tenant, they would meet them at their current residence to sign the lease, because they could tell how they lived at that time and tell if it's landlord maintenance issues that they didn't fix, or if it's tenant caused, by visiting them at their location, and they cut down on their large rent readies by 75% on those Section 8 tenants. And I think that's probably a good practice for anybody. If it takes some extra effort and some extra time, I think it'd be better to do a YouTube or do a video or something like that, so that you can see their place instead. But yeah, so some of these little tools and these tactics are what make a good property management company, by implementing these procedures, because they've seen ways that people lose money over a period of time. And so thank you so much for sharing all this stuff. How can people get a hold of you if they want to know more about property management or other ways of working with you, man?
Please don't. Leave me alone. I'm too busy for your bloody questions. No, mate, look, I'm always happy to help. OhioCashflow.com, that's our turnkey company. OzRealty.house,
Cool.
that's our property management company. I've actually got my own Wikipedia page, Matt. I'm so bloody cool, man.
Nice.
Look, also EngeloRumora.com. If you want to put some notes in the podcast description, I'm happy to help.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, at least point everyone in the right direction. So, reach out. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. And if anybody needs anything from us, we have free checklists for due diligence on operators, like a 200-point due diligence checklist. We have quick analysis sheets to break down what cash flow should be on an asset and what a flip proceed should be. Master classes, all kinds of stuff at MatthewOwens.com. So if you guys need any other help, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time today, man. It was great talking to you. I love talking with other operators that have done as much volume as you have, and really appreciate the insights associated with this stuff and the anti-government speak. It's awesome. So
thanks for having me, mate. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you, man. Do you want to learn how to create financial freedom in your life through real estate and take your investing business to the next level? If so, you can follow us in one of the following ways. First, you can take one of our free webinars on how to analyze property, how to raise capital for real estate, and how to market and find deals. 3 of the key pillars to becoming a successful real estate investor. Number 2, you can join us on our mailing list where you'll get tips and tricks on real estate investing directly to your inbox. And number 3, you can take our 6-month real estate course that teaches you every aspect of real estate investing you can think of, and more importantly, create financial freedom in your life through real estate investing strategies that I teach. If you want a master's in real estate in 6 months, this course is for you. We're going to go over how to raise money, promissory notes, syndications, fixing and flipping, buy and hold investing, tax and legal structures, self-directed retirement accounts, financial education, how to run a business, how to market and find your deals, and most importantly, how to create that financial freedom in your life so that you can stop trading your time for money and create passive real estate cash flow that you can live off of. If you're interested, go ahead and click on one of the links below, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side.